Okay, so I want to read you something that I wrote recently, and then we're going to talk about it. Let's see here. When losing a client feels like you just lost your livelihood. Have you ever lost a job? Like not being fired because you may have done something wrong, because let's be real, that's consequences of your own actions, right? And not when you've voluntarily left a job because maybe it wasn't a good fit, even if you didn't have something else lined up. I mean, because it's got to be pretty bad if you're doing that, right? But losing a job where you've done everything right, a job where you felt secure, a job where maybe you were able to have abundance. Have you ever been there? Do you remember the helplessness you felt? Like, what the heck am I going to do now? How am I going to pay my bills? Or maybe the hurt you felt because you had given so much of yourself to this job, and then just like that, it's gone. And then the anger sets in. It bubbles up inside you because how dare they let you go after all that you've done for them? Yeah, those kind of feelings stay with you. And I know they did with me when it happened to me. I was at the top of my game when I was working my corporate job. I was the star employee. Everyone knew me and everyone knew me and knew that if they needed something, I was the one to get it done. But then one day, everything shifted. Why? Because my boss left. And when they replaced the role, they replaced it with someone who lived in another city. And since I was an executive assistant at the time, I needed to be where my manager was, and they weren't offering me a relocation package. Instead, I received a severance package. And you know what? I mean, obviously I took it, but I took it and I saw it as an opportunity to finally do my own thing because I had been wanting to start my own business, and up until that point, I hadn't done it. But this business journey has been no easy feat. I haven't seen overnight success. I don't have a community of people referring business my way all the time. I continue to struggle day after day, and it hurts. And even the few one-on-one clients I've gotten over the years that have gotten me to 10K months or six-figure years, I've had to work so hard for. And then what happens? They decide not to renew. They decide to cancel contracts early. And not because of me, but because of other extenuating circumstances that have nothing to do with me. But you know what? Now I'm back in those feelings, the feelings that I felt when I got severed from my job. And you know what? It's my fault because I've built a business that is solely based on a one-to-one model. So of course, when someone leaves or doesn't renew, it feels like I've lost a job. But no more. No more relying on that one-on-one client. No more giving them my power. The shift happens now. This is why I'm so passionate about creating one-to-many offers, because it's a way to create additional streams of income that aren't reliant on the decision of one. It's time to create more opportunities to get paid and stay paid. Okay, so I wrote that recently. I was writing it because I wanted it to be a post, but I have yet to post it on social. I will, but I wanted to share it with you here because actually I'm doing pretty good today. Because usually, like when I wrote that, I was in tears, full on tears, because I wrote it. Oh, let me move this over here. I wrote it like in the moment when I lost my client. And this was my only one-on-one client. And it was a high paying client. So I, yeah, so I wrote that down because I wanted to share that with you. But here's the thing that I really want you to pay attention to. And it's the part about me being angry. Because I think that's important. I think it's important to talk about because, is this thing still on? Trying to iron my outfit. It's the thing that I want to focus on because being angry in this situation, I'm not angry at my client, right? I'm angry at myself because, excuse me, it's still morning time. Pardon me. Oh, Lord. Okay. I got it together. Sorry. Okay. I was mad at myself because I know better than to put all of my eggs in one basket, right? I learned that from having a job for over 10 years at the same company. That was the company before I got severed. I had worked at that company for over 10 years, for almost 10 years. Longest job I ever had. And so, and I worked in human resources too. So, we went through several severances. So I know what it's like, right? And so coming into my own business, creating my own business and building it similar to that job model, that employee to employer model was like, what, you know better than that, right? And a few years back, I had an agency and I had started to lose a lot of my agency clients. You know, they were pulling back on what they were spending. You know, there was a little thing going on, a pandemic that was starting. And so for me, and because of the type of clients that I had, they were watching their budgets, right? Which again, that had nothing to do with me, right? But so I know what that was like, right? I mean, I made it through, of course. You know, I'm gonna make money, but I was mad at myself that here we are again, that I allowed myself to rely on one client or a few clients, a handful of clients, right? And this is why I'm like, you know what? Now is the time. I've been putting this on the back burner for the longest time. And now I'm in this situation where I don't want to be and scrambling, right, to figure out, okay, how am I going to keep income? Or I should say, I keep saying income. Even every time I play this over in my head, I keep saying income. And that's my problem, right? It's revenue, right? But I don't want to continue to have my revenue coming from one client, right? And so like, I'm looking at my notes because I wanted to make sure that you don't, yes, ma'am, there's Onyx. I wanted to make sure that you don't forget that in this business, in your business, that you have the power, right? And so if there's something that you don't like, as in you're relying on these one-on-one clients, like for me, okay, in the situation, we'll just talk about me. I'm not going to talk about you, but I will talk about you. That I'm in this situation where I've allowed myself to rely on this one client or, you know, a handful of clients. And that's ultimately me giving my power away, that they have control over how much money I make and when I make it. And I don't want that. That's why I left my job. I mean, like, that's why I said, okay, I'm going to take the severance package and I'm not going to get another job because I want to have my own business. Now, the thing that I didn't realize is, you know, this business thing is, I'm not going to say it's harder than people say, because some people will be honest and share that it is challenging. But I definitely didn't realize how much I didn't know. And one of the things that I've realized is that when you start your business, whether you're a coach, service provider, consultant, creative, whatever that is, that obviously you're going to start your business with working one-on-one with people, right? So you can start building your reputation and you can start getting social proof and, all the things that we need to prove ourselves, to prove our worth to potential buyers, right? That's a conversation too for another day I want to talk about. But so I get that, right? But quickly, if you don't want to end up in a situation like I'm in right now, if you don't want to end up in that situation, then you have to create those additional streams of income within your business. And let's be honest, let's be real, even outside of your business, right? Because anything can happen to you, right? I've been in that situation, not myself personally, but I've been in that situation where I was working with someone and they had to step away from their business and everything stopped, right? Because they were a coach and everything stopped. They had an emergency with a family member, something that was totally unexpected. And for weeks, we were just kind of in a holding pattern, right? But what if in that situation, what if they had more passive streams of income, like a group coaching program or a membership or a workshop series or something, right? And so like when you think about that, that's where the one-to-many offers really do come into play. And it's not just about any kind of one-to-many offer though. That's the part. Because some of y'all out here, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you now, but some of y'all out here are just creating just to be creating, right? And I can't be mad at that because I'm like, at least you creating, right? So you're doing better than me or better than I was, right? But we got to create intentionally and strategically. So here we are, me losing or have lost that main source of revenue. Oh, sorry. And what am I going to do? Well, number one, I'm going to dust myself off. I'm not going to be so hard on myself, even though I was angry at myself. I was just like, oh, Toya, like, you know better. Like, now we're in this situation again. And, but I'm like, it'll be okay. I know how to, pull my bootstraps up and let's make it do what it do, But and I think sometimes we kind of get in our own way. I know that I have, because it's like, I know this, but then I procrastinate or I overthink. What am I going to create? Because it is important. It is important that I create something that truly is aligned with who I am and my life and, what my goals, right? But that's the part. We have to make time to focus on that. And that's what I'm doing, right? Because I never want to be in this position again. I'm saying it to you right now. I never want to be in this position again, where one client determines my quote unquote livelihood. So what do I want you to remember? What I want you to take from this episode, this conversation? Hold on, let me pull up my notes. So here's what I want you to take from all of this. Losing a client shouldn't feel like losing a job. If it does, then you haven't created the right business model that is aligned with you and to allow you to feel comfortable, right? It's time for you to build a business that gives you more than money, but gives you options, right? Now is the time. Don't wait until you lost the client. when you're scrambling, because now you're creating out of desperation and not strategy, right? Not out of, being intentional, not out of fun, right? We want to bring the fun back into business. So now is the time. You don't want to wait like when you get insurance, right? If you have a car insurance, you keep the car insurance. As much as you hate paying those monthly premiums or quarterly premiums, you can't wait until after you had an accident to be like, oh, now I need insurance. That's not going to help you. You have to stay ahead of it. And having one-to-many offers to go along with your one-on-one retainers and coaching packages, that's your insurance. That even if something happens with one of those one-on-one clients, the bulk of your business should be coming from your group offers, whatever that is. You have one-to-many offers, digital products, whatever that is, the bulk of your money, the bulk of your revenue should be coming from those one-to-many offers. And then your one-on-one should be your premium service, exclusive, just a handful of clients are in those services, right? I want you to know that you deserve consistency, stability, and sovereignty in your business, right? I want you to remember that. And I'm telling myself that too. And how are you going to do that? You're going to create more quote unquote passive streams of income or passive streams of revenue within your business, especially within your business. But we'll talk about outside of your business later. So if you're tired of all of that, if you're tired of being one client decision away from panic, then it's time to change that. So with that said, make sure to, I'm going to try to finish ironing. Make sure to check out the description and the show notes of this episode for more information. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Latoya K. Williamson. You can go to my website. You can sign up for my email list where I send lots of exclusive content. I send out freebies. I just throw a whole bunch of stuff in my email list. So you definitely want to be on that. You can join that by going to www.itslatoyawilliamson.com. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for hanging out with me while I iron my outfit, which I typically don't do. I don't know, are you a iron your outfit kind of person? Are you a throw it in the dryer kind of person? Or are you, I'm just going to walk out of the house and be a wrinkled kind of person? Because sometimes I'm a wrinkled person, not going to lie. Or I'm going to throw it in the dryer. But I thought it would be cool to sit here and chat with you while I iron this. So I got to get ready to go to the chiropractor. I need to feed my little kitty cat Onyx. And I will see y'all next time.